Ah, there we go. Hi, Jen. I just invited you, Nicole.
Yay.
There we go.
Hi.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, thanks. I figured out how to make the picture thing work, so it's
Oh, cool.
gonna be great.
Okay, awesome.
We've just got more and more people joining here, so we'll give them a minute.
All right.
Jen says hi.
Are you Mountain Time or are you
Pacific.
Pacific? Okay,
Yeah.
as well. Yeah.
I'm up here in Vancouver.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
You're in San Diego, right? So
Yep. Yeah, it's cloudy and overcast today.
same. But that's expected up here, I guess.
That's true.
How
Awesome.
are things going there?
It's going great. Well,
All things considered.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Are are things starting to get relaxed there?
Slightly. Just a little, yeah. With distancing
Yeah,
and
of
masks.
course. For sure. Oh, Hector says he says hi too.
Hello.
I missed him. Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, he says hi to you, not me.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Shall we
Well,
start?
yeah, that'd be perfect.
Okay. So for anyone who doesn't know who I am, my name is Nicole Nasby-Lucas, and I work at the Marine Conservation Science Institute. I work along with Dr. Michael Domeyer, and together we've been studying the great white sharks at Guadalupe Island since about 2000, so about 20 years. So back in 2000, nothing was really known about the Guadalupe Island sharks. There were no cage diving operations, and we really knew nothing about them. The only sharks on the west coast of North America that were well known were, of course, Farallon Islands and Central California and up by San Francisco. So Guadalupe Island was a big unknown. So it was a perfect time for us to start jumping in with Guadalupe Island. And at the same time, that's when electronic tags were really coming on with great technology. So it's really hard to study a highly migratory animal like a great white shark without being able to add some sort of a electronic tracking device because you can't just swim around and follow them. So before the tag technology, people just thought of great white sharks as living along the coast and eating seals and sea lions and sneaking up on an unsuspecting surfer. And that's sort of how they got their bad rap through movies like Jaws and people being afraid to go in the water. But once we started tagging the sharks, we learned, they spend about half the year in the middle of the ocean. So they're as much oceanic as they are coastal. So the more we learned about them, we figured out what their habitat was. So the tags that we used were started using were pop-up satellite tags. I have one here. So these are really cool devices that it will record detailed information on depth and temperature and the migratory pattern, so where it's going. So we learned where they go, what they do, and we found that the Guadalupe Island sharks are there from late summer to early winter, and then they head offshore to the middle of the ocean. So just shy of Hawaii is an area that we call the Shared Offshore Foraging Area, or SOFA, because it's the same area that the Guadalupe Island sharks go to, and then the San Francisco or the Central California sharks go to. It's also referred to as the White Shark Cafe. So these sharks are spending 6 months out there. They leave Guadalupe around January or February. They hang out for 6 months in the middle of the ocean. We're not exactly sure, still learning about that area. And then come back. So around July and August, they'll return to Guadalupe Island. So
Do you have a picture for that you want me to show?
there's a map that shows the migration. Oh, no, that's the female. Do the male one. Yeah, that one.
Okay, there we go.
So we found that small females and males were making this annual repeat predictable migration. So, and I don't know if you can tell from that map, but they're not, when they travel out there, they're making just a beeline. They get there, they hang out, they mill around for 6 months, and then they just head straight back. So it's really interesting. And so those are the males and the small females that are doing that every year. And then all those sharks will return July and August. We also know that when they're out in the middle of the ocean, these tags show us that they can dive to as deep as 1,000 meters while they're out there. So we still don't know exactly what they're chasing, but obviously there's some sort of food source out there. We did make a trip out to that area and saw a lot of squid and sperm whale. So it could be partially a squid-based environment. You know, I know they can go pretty deep, but regularly they're at the surface and diving to like 500 meters, making regular oscillatory dives. So it's pretty interesting. So,
yeah.
So all of that we wouldn't have known without the tags. So knowing that the sharks come back to Guadalupe Island in like July or August of each year makes it great for cage diving at Guadalupe, because predictably we know when the sharks are going to be there, because obviously you don't want to go when they're not there. And also the same sharks that go out to the middle of the ocean come back to Guadalupe every year. And interestingly, the California sharks are using that same area, and the California sharks go back to Central California. So that has also made it good for photo identification, because we can identify individual sharks when they return to Guadalupe Island. So in 2003, we started the Guadalupe Island Photo ID database. And back in 2003, we had 20 sharks. And since then, we've added all the new sharks we see every year, and then keep track of the sharks that are returning all the time. So I happen to have a copy of 2019 photo ID book. And the 2019 book had 312 sharks. I'm just finishing up the book for 2020, and it'll probably have around 366. So like another 50 sharks are added. So
that's incredible.
It is. And the last 3 years have been huge. Like each trip to Guadalupe Island, you'll see maybe 30 individual sharks, you know, on a 3-day trip. That's pretty amazing. And there's been a lot of new sharks in the last couple of years as well. So I think that's a good sign for the population. We're seeing lots of sharks and seeing lots of new sharks. So, So yes, hopefully the new book will be available in August. And it is available on our website, MarineCSI.org. People often ask, okay, how do you get to name a shark, and how do you identify a shark? So a lot of the photographers that go out there will share their photos with us. And if it's a new shark that hasn't been added to the database and we can use those photos to get a new shark, then they get to name the shark. But a lot of times, a lot of people give us pictures of the same shark. So it's also be able to name through donation. And we do trips. I do trips each year on the Nautilus Undersea with Shark Diver. And I do trips on the Nautilus Explorer with MCSI. And at the end of each of those trips, we name all the new sharks that we saw. So those are just the trips I'm on. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's always fun. And then, so how do you identify a shark? That picture shows the pigment pattern. So that one's actually a pretty easy shark to identify. They have like a unique fingerprint with their pigment patterns. On the tail, you'll see the white markings, and then the pelvic fin and the gill region. So each of those is a unique pattern for each individual shark, and they're different on the left and the right side. So we have to have both sides to enter it into the database. But we can use all these amazing underwater photographs from Guadalupe Island to keep track of which sharks are showing up each year. So that one is a pretty easy shark to identify given the unique markings. Some of them not quite so much, but we also do look at any kind of fin damage. So just from as small as notches in the dorsal fin to a lot of times you'll see severe damage. You know, you'll have big gashes in the dorsal fin, or missing the part of the dorsal fin, or even on the caudal fin as well. So one of the most famous ones is Lucy. Do you have a picture?
I think you have, there's
Lucy, yeah. So the bottom picture is in 2000, I think it's 4, or is it 3? 3, okay. So in 2003 was the first time we saw Lucy, and she had a great, just a regular caudal fin. And then next time we saw her, she had the damage to the upper lobe of her caudal fin. So she's one of the most famous sharks on Shark Week, I think. She's easily to recognize. So
yeah, definitely.
She's a favorite. And we saw her both 2019 and 2018, and she had the biggest number of pilot fish I've ever seen with a shark. So she's just a really cool shark. But yeah,
sure.
so some kind of damage like that can make it obviously quicker to identify an individual shark. But they also have other like bite marks, and they're really not nice to each other. You'll see a lot of wounds and bite marks. Exactly. Yeah. So and even wounds can be from like probably running into a boat or propeller or even a cage. But usually it's bite marks from other sharks. Like this is Bruce, and one year he showed up with a big bite in the gill region. You could see all the way into all his gills. But by the next year, it totally healed up, and he had a little bit of a scar. So I often hear people say, well, on Shark Week, oh yeah, we identify it because it had this scratch 3 years ago. But these sharks are amazing healers, which is good for them because, you know, they take a lot of abuse too. So the other way that these sharks take abuse is mating scars. So no one's actually seen great white sharks mate, but we do know from other sharks that we have photo and video where the males will bite onto the females in the gill region. And there's one shark, gill rakers. I think there's a picture of that too. That shows a big bite in the gill region.
Oh,
is that
I don't think I've got it.
Okay. All right. So we know by the bites that we have on the females that shows mating, the potential of mating at Guadalupe Island. So so that's one evidence that Guadalupe Island is actually a mating site. So they're all showing up in the fall for mating.
There we go.
Yeah, this was a little bit. So from just identifying individual sharks every year, we can sort of get their patterns. Okay, the males are coming back. I mean, from 2003, when we first started with those 20 sharks, we have some sharks that we still see every single year, like Bruce and Biteface and Thor. And those are the males. So the females we were finding after we see these big like mating scars and bite marks that we wouldn't see them for 2 years. So they would skip a year and then return. So that was sort of the first indication that the females were going away while they were pregnant. So the best estimate for females is 18-month pregnancy. So so if they're coming to Guadalupe Island to mate, then they leave for 2 years. So they're off. So at that point, we started using the tags that you attach to the dorsal fin, this guy, which gives real-time tracking data and long-term tracking. So the longest mature female track we have is about 7 years. So that can show us where they go when they're pregnant and then where they go to give birth. So this track here shows gill rakers. So once she leaves the island, she's offshore for about 16 months or so while she's pregnant, which is surprising because they end up having around 8 pups that are around 5 feet long. So they really need a lot of nutrients. So you think they would hang out where all the seals and sea lions and stuff are. So obviously they're finding something out in the ocean. They know where to find it. So gill rakers was interesting. She went all the way up along the coast of Oregon, and it could be that she was following like the gray whale migration.
Okay.
And then interestingly, she goes back. So she went into the Sea of Cortez during the pupping season to have her pups, and then back to Guadalupe Island to mate. And then 2 years later, did the exact same route, went all the way up along the coast of Oregon. So she must have found some sort of a feeding strategy that worked for her, and then did it again. So the tags that we've put out show that they're spending all this time offshore while they're pregnant, and then they head to the coast during the known pupping season. So we know that like young of the year and juvenile sharks show up around June, like April, May, June. And so that's the same time that the females are heading to the coast. So it makes sense that they're doing that to do their pupping. So they head into, we've shown them going into the Sea of Cortez, as well as the west coast of Baja, particularly around like Viscano Bay. But most of the females have actually gone into the Sea of Cortez, which is interesting because there really isn't a lot of evidence of young of the year juveniles in that area. Although you do see, unfortunately, there's a lot of fishing pressure there. So every once in a while you see a big female get caught in the Sea of Cortez. So, so that's something to watch out for.
Yeah.
So, I worry about them every time they swim into the Sea of Cortez.
Right. Oh.
Yeah. So we've learned all kinds of cool things with the two programs, the tagging and the tracking, and then photo ID. So tagging and tracking has given us life history and behavior and migration patterns. So all this is important for protecting the sharks because where you need to know where the sensitive areas like pupping and mating and where they go when they're pregnant. So all that can be used for conservation efforts for those specific areas. So yeah, and then the photo ID is not only just fun for identifying individual sharks, but it helps to assess the whole population. So we can know if the population is stable, if it's in trouble, if it's decreasing, if we're not seeing as many sharks every year, or if the population is increasing. So all that's important for conservation, so we know how the sharks are doing.
Yeah.
So in addition to all of that, we're starting to study more of the California sharks as well. So looking at Mako sharks and California sharks. And so it's like nobody really knows where the California sharks go to give birth. So there was a year ago, or a couple of years ago, we tagged one of the large females off Southern California. And interestingly, she also went into the Sea of Cortez to give birth. So
Really?
yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So all kinds of really cool stuff that has never been known before about all these sharks.
How many tags do you know how many tags you guys have on sharks right now? Like how many are you looking at any given time?
So we have an app called Expedition White Shark where you can track them. A lot of the tags we did at Guadalupe were 2007, 2008, 2009, and the tags have either come off or the batteries are no longer working. But there are a couple from, we good? From
Yeah.
From the California sharks and some. My mom's trying to call me.
Perfect. You're back. We're good.
Yeah. So not a huge number, but enough to get important information. So.
Do you have any plans to add more tags or?
For right now, the information we've gotten has helped us learn more about these sharks, and we want to make sure we're asking the right questions before we need more. But obviously, you need a good sample size. But yeah, we're still doing more sharks in California for right now because there are bigger questions that have not yet been answered in California.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. Let me try and open. We have a question.
Okay.
How long do great whites live?
Okay, that's a good question. So the best estimate that we have is maybe around 70 years. So you can read the rings on their the vertebrae. So they try and estimate age from that. So there was a study done a couple of years ago that came up with around 70 years. So they probably spend about their first 5 years along the coast. When they're born, they eat like fish and crabs and small invertebrates like that. So they're not eating marine mammals. And then it's not until they reach about 10 to 12 feet that they're considered subadult. And then they move to places like Guadalupe Island and the adult aggregation sites. And that's where there's lots of, like Guadalupe Island has great elephant seals and Guadalupe fur seal and the California sea lion. So lots of snacks. And they're probably maybe 15 years when they become adults, so when they're mature and can reproduce. So yeah, so 70 years and 15 at reproducing, that's fairly similar to what we would consider.
Yeah.
So some of the big sharks, like say deep blue, when we first saw, I have photos of her in 1999 where she's probably, I don't know, she's huge back then. So over 18 for sure. And that was, over 20 years ago. So yeah.
Jeez.
So she's, let's see, 20. Yeah. I don't know. She's probably over 40, if not more.
More, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully we see her again. I think it's been a few years since we've seen her at Guadalupe.
Yeah, so it has been, but it was a year ago, January, that she was in Hawaii. So it could have been that she was pregnant then. So I was thinking maybe she was back last year, but you never know. And sometimes, even though they go to Guadalupe every other year, sometimes they skip a reproductive cycle. So they can show up in consecutive years. Like Lucy, we saw in 2018 and 2019. So I wouldn't expect her to see this year, but.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'll have to tell some people. Sean Mahoney is a huge Lucy fan, so I'll have to let him know that
Yeah.
maybe don't expect to see her. Oh, we've got another question. How often do they get pregnant?
So, right. So, really, it's every 2 years then. But
Right.
sometimes they can skip a cycle. So, it's interesting. So, the males show up at Guadalupe late July, early August. The females don't show up until September or October. So, even though that they gave birth, April, May, June along the coast, our tracking data shows they're just kind of milling offshore and not coming into the island. Given those bite marks, I'm sure they're not in a big hurry to get back there.
That's fair.
Yeah. So yeah, it's typically every 2 years, but every once in a while they do skip a year. So.
Right. Oh, I've got another question in here. This is a question I was actually going to ask. Jen stole it, but we get asked all the time, how come we don't see the great white breaches like they do in South Africa when they're still hunting seals? Like, why aren't we seeing that behavior like they do there?
So I think part of it might have to do with how the predation at both like South Africa and Guadalupe Island. So, South Africa has a lot murkier water. And so it's easy for the sharks to sneak up underneath and they can attack a seal while it's at the surface. The water at Guadalupe is so clear that I don't think that strategy works as much. I think they tend to find their prey a little bit deeper, in deeper waters and sneak up on them instead of through the murky waters, coming up at high speed.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I always think it's so wild how you see the sea lions and stuff nipping at the sharks during the day. Like,
right.
That just does not seem like a good decision to me.
No, I agree. But they don't seem to do anything about it.
No, they don't. I don't know. Anyways,
I know.
It's not
You're never sure. Am I rooting for the seal or am I rooting for the shark?
Right. It'd be cool, but
yeah. But run, no, swim away.
What? I've always thought, like, what are you doing? Why? Anyway, I don't know why they do that. Oh,
I know.
Nubia is asking, how many sharks have you identified from the Shark ID book?
So, so last year there were 312. Now we have 366. So I've been going through all of the 2019 photos, matching everything up, and adding new ones. So I could find a few more before the book gets printed, but that's a reasonable number. The book's getting thicker all the time.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe that like that many more get added every year.
Well, and it's really only been the last couple of years. Before that, we probably added maybe 20 a year, we thought was pretty good. But the last few years have been a lot of new sharks, which makes it a lot more confusing to keep track of them all. It's like,
do you think is it just the number of sharks increasing, or are more people getting out there, more people taking better pictures of them?
I think, well, like I said, what we're seeing on a 3-day trip to Guadalupe Island, we're probably seeing 30 individual sharks. I mean, it didn't used to be like that for sure. We'd see like 15 and go, wow, that was amazing.
Right.
Yeah. But even along, so I live in the San Diego area and we see a lot more of the juvenile sharks as well. There's a lot more sightings and interactions. It could be because people are on stand-up paddle boards and there's drones, and so they see it from above more, but it also could be because the sharks are increasing. They've made a lot of protection measures in fishing. The smaller sharks do get caught in fishing gear, as well as Marine Mammal Protection Acts. So, there's been plenty of food for sharks, which is good for them.
Yeah.
So it does seem like the number of juveniles increasing, which then would translate to more subadults recruiting to the adult aggregation sites like Guadalupe Island. So, because a lot of the new sharks that we see are smaller, so I think we are moving in more of the subadults each year. So I think the population is so far doing good in Southern California. So
That's awesome. Okay, we've got a couple more questions here. When will the new photo ID book be printed?
So typically I wait until August, because I wait until Shark Week when we have our auction for a male and a female, and then the names get added and then it goes to the printer. So I haven't heard anything about Shark Week this year. Have you? I heard a rumor that it might happen in August, but
that's the same thing I've heard. I can send an email to someone and get back to you.
Right. I mean, they're not going to skip Shark Week, but I'm just surprised they usually have announced it by now. So
my only thought is they couldn't get the people out on the trips that they wanted to and have to piece together some new shows from old footage or something, but
I don't know. I imagine they'll do something. So usually it's printed beginning of August then. So
perfect. And are there any other large marine animals spotted during the trip?
I remember a couple of years ago when the water was really warm that there were reports of seeing a whale shark from the cage as well. That would be really cool.
I think I've seen pictures of one whale shark.
Yeah.
And one humpback.
Wow. Yeah, there's quite a bit of, whales off in the distance, but from right there in the anchorage, I'd love to see a whale shark.
That would be incredible. But you've been to Guadalupe way more than I have and are way more familiar with it. But the main reason that people go there is the white sharks.
Correct. and rightly so.
Yeah, exactly. Newbie said last season, I think I saw more juveniles. Are there more male sharks than females?
So, like I said, I think we are getting more of the smaller recruits each year. That's a lot of the new sharks that are coming in. And overall, in the photo ID book, there are more males than females. I think with the smaller sharks, it's probably about even. But overall, in the ID book, I think there are more males. And my best guess is that the females, well, first of all, like the larger females, don't show up until August or October or, late September, early October. And a lot of the boats are there early season. So they may miss some of the females. So it could be a sampling error. But also the females, the males just go out in the middle of the ocean, they come back. They go out in the middle of the ocean and come back. The females actually, like I said, go into the Sea of Cortez, or they go along the coast. And so they might face more dangers than the male do. So it could actually be that there are less females because of that. So, yeah.
How much is the Shark ID book?
Let's see. It is about $85 plus shipping. And about half of that goes to support our research efforts. So, in addition to that, we also do like a sponsor a shark or adopt a shark, where you can pick your favorite Guadalupe Island shark and you get a photo and the history of that shark and that kind of stuff too. So we have that on our website as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Plans for this year because of the pandemic?
Crossing fingers.
Right. Hopefully we can get out there soon.
I know. The future's a little uncertain, but we're hoping for the best.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's a little hard to kind of predict, what's going to happen right now.
Exactly.
Oh, we saw a whale shark last season from Stein. Nice.
Very cool.
Yeah. And somebody is asking, where can I get an ID book?
They're on the website, MarineCSI.org.
That's great.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you a couple questions too. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask as well. we've got Nicole, and take advantage. What is it like when the females show up? It's never, obviously they don't give us a date on the calendar, but do you think it's to do with the water temperatures or?
That's a good question. So there's still a lot to figure out about, what takes them to certain areas. Why are they in the middle of the ocean when they are? It could have to do with the marine mammals at the island, and pupping and molting, and the best time for eating there too. But there's no reason that the females couldn't arrive earlier. So like I said, I think that they're not in a rush to get back there and start mating.
It's fair.
Yeah. Because the smaller females show up earlier, just not the
right.
the mature females.
Right. Who is your favorite shark?
That's a hard one. Well, I have to say, obviously Lucy's pretty far up there, but some of the big females that you don't see very often, it's always such a treat to see them. A couple of years ago, I had a really cool encounter with Titsameedle. She's one that has the top of her caudal fin, her tail fin cut off, and she's probably around 19 feet. And it was late September, which happens to be my birthday. We hadn't seen any big females. And so the night before I said, okay, this is what I want for my birthday. I want a big female. Out of nowhere, she comes straight up, comes right up to the cage, and bumps the cage right in front of my face. And then swims away. I'm like, hi. Thank you. Just out of nowhere.
That's awesome. You got what you asked for.
Yeah, I got my birthday present.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, a lot of favorite sharks. I'm seeing a lot of Lucy, a lot of Kenrick. Marissa said Domino. Marissa was actually on a trip with me one time, and I don't think Domino's not what she got named in the book.
Okay. I don't know which one it is.
Yeah, I don't remember her name either, but I know she's in there. Yeah. Did anyone see Ropey last year?
Okay, so Ropey, for anyone who doesn't know about Ropey, had a rope wrapped around the gill area, and that can be really, so we hear about marine debris with like turtles and how it can be bad for the ocean, but it can also affect the big apex predators like white sharks. So it was wrapped around the gill region, and it can constrict and be dangerous. So we did not see Ropey last year. So there was another male that had a rope wrapped around it. There's been a couple others. Luca Arnone did for 1 year. That rope has come off. And then last year, a couple years ago, it was, I think his number was 287, but the rope was gone this last year, and he now has the name Gilbert Gottfried.
I always wonder with some of the names of sharks, like who named them that and where did you come up with it?
I know. We should have a little blurb on how it got its name. Yeah. I mean, some of the most common are pets or kids or,
Yeah, I know a lot of people have named it after themselves.
That happens too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From our diving trip, when we do the trip, what can we do to be active beyond the fun and actually help the research?
For us, I mean, just sharing photos is a way to help the research. I mean, that is fun. The photos are the fun part of it. But all of that information goes into keeping the database to help you track the sharks and monitor the population. So that's a good way to help, an easy way to help the research.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I find a lot of people just going out there really changes their perspective on sharks and what they're really like. And, it's not Jaws or 47 meters.
No, I mean, they would be surprised at how just graceful they are swimming by. There's these big giants, but, it's more exhilarating than scary.
Yeah, 100%. Definitely.
Yeah, you get a new respect for sure.
For sure. I think honestly, it just changes so much. And I wish more people that had that fear would come out on a trip and see them like that. I just change their mind completely. What is the size range of the sharks?
So, like I said, Guadalupe Island usually has subadults, so they could be down to 10 feet and up to deep blue is estimated around 20 feet. So I'd say we have a lot of the mature females that it's really hard to go. There's like bigger, and oh my gosh, right? It's like, it's hard to, like a foot here or there, it's hard to tell the difference. Right. And a lot of the males are about 15, and a lot of mature females might be around 18. And the smaller sharks might be 10 to 12. But when you see like a 16-foot shark and then you see a 10-foot shark, there's a big difference. I mean, you look at it and you go, oh, that's only like 5 feet. And it's like, it's bigger than that. But it's hard in the water to get the perspective.
Right.
But I mean, who can imagine something 15 feet long swimming past me, right? So, yeah. But yeah, so probably, you know, between 10 to 18 feet is the range that we're seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite season or time to go?
I like going late season because I like the idea that, you know, I'll see a female that we haven't seen for a while, and it's a big surprise. So I like the big females for sure.
Because you're so familiar with the book and the sharks, is it easy for you to pick out who's who?
Sometimes. There's somewhere, you know, there are sharks that are there regularly, and so it's easy to identify them. But others, it's like, oh, I know I've seen that before, but I can't figure out which one it is.
Who are you?
Right. It's like, oh, I've seen you. Yeah. But it's kind of fun when it swims by and you go, oh, there's Bruce, or, you know, whatever.
Yeah. I remember I was showing Martin a video one time, and he's like, oh, that's so-and-so, and that, I'm pretty sure that's so-and-so. I'm like, you spend so much time in the water with these sharks. It is apparent.
Yeah, no, he's good at identifying too, and it's great to have the help.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. What do they mostly eat?
So I know at Guadalupe Island, there's probably, you know, the elephant seals for sure are good prey items. Often in the middle of the ocean could be squid, whales. You know, you often see white sharks congregating around a dead whale carcass. So, you know, they need all the energy they can get for sure. Right.
It's just so interesting that I can't get the female pattern that you showed. Like, I just find that so fascinating that she did the exact same route, like 2 years.
Right. And
after.
that's not unheard of with, like, I also do some work with Mako sharks and blue sharks and other sharks. Like, they may not all go the same place. They may go to similar places, but the exact same shark has been shown to go to the exact same place in consecutive years. So they do learn, hey, you know, this was a great place to go last year. I'm gonna go try that out again. So given that strategy, maybe Deep Blue will try Hawaii again. You know, maybe that's a place that she visits, you know, every other year while she's pregnant or something. Yeah. She might find some marine mammals or dead whales again out in that area. So
it's so fascinating.
Yeah, that was just amazing to be able to see Deep Blue. I mean, that she was identified in Hawaii. That was super cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
A question I've actually never asked you, but how did you end up working with Dr. Domeyer and MCSI and creating the Shark ID book?
Well, somehow it's your path just leads you there. I grew up in Minnesota, so, you know, we don't have a lot of sharks there. But I always knew I wanted to be a marine biologist. I didn't know exactly, sorry.
That's okay.
What I wanted to do. So I went to graduate school for tracking, or for like mapping and tracking and habitat specialty stuff. And then I started working with Michael doing GIS mapping. So with all the tagging that goes on, mapping is really important. So I got in through that skill. And then doing the Guadalupe Island white sharks they were at the time working on tunas at Guadalupe Island. So I went to Guadalupe Island with a boat full of pop-up satellite tags for tunas, so bluefin tuna, and it turned out there weren't any tunas there, but they were surrounded by sharks. So they're like, oh, let's just see what these sharks are doing. And then it started our biggest project. So yeah.
Wow.
So sometimes things just fall into place, right?
Yeah, that incredible. Oh
yeah. And
why do the females mostly travel solo, unlike the males you usually see in packs?
At Guadalupe Island, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, you don't see a lot of packs. They might see side by side. And even when they travel out to the middle of the ocean, even though they're going to the same place, they're leaving one by one, and they're not even close to each other when they're out there. So I think they are mostly solo. Although it's funny, sometimes you see the same shark swimming next to the same shark they were with before. So, you know, you don't know what their relationship is, but, but yeah, so, you know, they're mostly solo animals.
Why do you think they do the side-by-side swimming? Is it to try and measure up against?
Maybe. Okay. Are you bigger than me? Okay, I'm gonna back down. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess that makes the most sense for why they kind of do that weird behavior.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Sorry, where's my other list of questions for you? How come we don't really see them eating the jacks very often in Guadalupe? Just too small, or?
Probably just too small. I mean, and you don't see them chasing the tunas, although clearly they like tuna. Although at the other end of the island, I know they do a lot of fishing, and it's really hard to bring in a whole fish. You might bring in half a fish. So yeah, so they're obviously feeding on some of the fish, but it's easier to catch one that's on the line.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
When you go to Guadalupe, do you prefer the submersible cages or the surface?
I like the surface. There's better lighting and and better action near the hang bait. So
right.
But there's times like the first thing in the morning when they're kind of circling down deep, that it's nice to, you know, get a better view down there. But
okay.
Yeah, I like the surface.
Like, oh, I just know that like when you watch them get a little riled up near the surface, it's very exciting too. So
yeah.
Why do you think Lucy travels with the little fish so much? Are they her buddies?
That's a good question. So I'm not sure. I think that the pilot fish, I don't know that much about the pilot fish, but I think they're more oceanic. So they might pick them up wherever they're traveling and bring them back. You usually see more of the females with the pilot fish. So I don't know if it's because of where they go or just their size. It gives them more protection to hang out with them. But some of the sharks that have fin damage like that seem to pick up a few more. Maybe she's a bit slower with her fin like that. I'm not sure. So it's easier for them to jump on.
Makes sense.
But even the littler ones, sometimes you even see them like swimming right inside, you know, right in front of their mouth or in there. You just wonder if they want to go jump on them. Don't they annoy them?
Right. I guess it'd be easy for them to get rid of them.
Yeah. They must not mind. They're used to it.
Right?
Yeah.
How old are the youngest male sharks we see at Guad?
So my guess would be 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So they're almost 5 feet when they're born. And then that's when they live in the coastal areas. And then I think around 4 or 5 years, then they're around 10, 12 feet long and start to reach the subadult phase. So somewhere around there. And then it's not till even 10 to 15 where they're mature.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what are like the different groupings? So you say subadult. So there's juvenile. Can you explain that and the ages a little bit?
Yeah. So juvenile, they're it's when they're living along the coast, they're eating smaller fish and stuff like that. So subadult, around 10 to 12 feet, is when they start to move towards eating marine mammals. So even their teeth change. So they start to change their diet, and then they're getting ready for adult and maturity. So yeah.
There's no senior sharks? You don't classify?
I would probably call deep blue a senior.
So, juvenile is up to the 10 to 12 feet, then 10 to 12 to...
Yeah, the males mature like around maybe even 12 or 13 feet, where the females are 15 and over feet until they mature.
Right.
So they're a bit later and a bit bigger when they mature. But females are just impressive. I mean, even the biggest male we've seen, the 18-foot Apache, he was so skinny that when you looked at him, he just wasn't visually impressive. Whereas the females are so girthy that they look visually bigger. It's like one of those optical illusions, you know, that they just look bigger and more impressive. Yeah. So they're pretty cool.
That was a good question. Thank you.
But and the other thing that's funny about seniors, you mentioned seniors, the males, as they get older, tend to get these black spots on them. So we don't see it quite as much with the females, but you see these like large black spots. So even like Bruce, who, you know, we first identified back in 2001, is starting to pick up a lot of these spots 20 years later. So,
like age spots,
I guess so. Some sort.
Yeah. How deep do the submersible cages go? Ours go down 10 meters, 30 feet.
Yeah.
What do the newborns eat?
So they're eating like smaller fish and, you know, rays and crabs and things like that in the shallow water along the coast.
It's not that, well, they have softer teeth? Is that
the shape of them, like they're pointier and then they're,
Right. And I guess we don't really know how long they stay in the Sea of Cortez for, because no one's witnessed pupping, right?
Right. And they seem to move around. Like even there's been some tracking of the smaller sharks in the Southern California Bight here, and they travel down Baja and into the Sea of Cortez. So they'll travel.
Really?
Yeah. So they don't just stay here in California. They'll travel down the coast.
Right. Wow. Okay. Oh, Sylvia says, love Bruce, my favorite. Long time since we've seen him.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. This is what I've noticed. So when we first started going back in, you know, the early 2000s, Bruce, Bite Face, they were in your face, you know, even like Shredder, Scar, they were always in front of the cage. So it seems to me like the younger sharks are more interested in the cage, and maybe even like getting some of the hang baits. So now it's sort of a changing of the guard. The newer sharks are the ones that we see regularly in front of it, and then you'll get a passing from, say, Bruce or some of the older sharks. So you'll still get photos of them. So that's why I try to collect all the photos I can, because someone might get one photo of one shark that made, you know, a single pass. Like there's a shark called Cream Puff that I think last year I found like one photo of it, you know. So sharks like Bruce do swim by, but they're not going to be the players in front of the cage like the younger ones are. So they used to be, but they're still there, and they just, you know, make a pass every once in a while. So
you're saying there could be hope for Shredder?
No.
No?
I think it's been too long. So the last time we saw Shredder was 2011. And at the time, he was still the rambunctious, always in front of the cage, that we'd see him all the time. And I mean, he's so easily recognized that everyone would get excited. They would see him. So
yeah,
that one I'm not sure about. And a lot of times, just because we don't see a shark, it's a big island, and you know, and there's activity all around the island. So they don't have to be in front of the cage, and it tends well, but it tends to be the smaller ones that are interested in the cage. So you get a lot of those. And then every once in a while you get a pass by the ones you really want to see. So you got to be patient. I know people think it's like, sometimes it's not so much an adrenaline sport as it is patience. It's like, you know, here they come.
I know, that's what we always tell people. Like, it's not Disneyland. We don't control them. We don't have a shark call.
Right. They're wild animals, which is also why I would not recommend swimming with them out of the cage. They are wild animals.
Well, that's a question that we see all the time. Well, can I go out? And no, you cannot. But that's a great question. Would you do it? I mean, if anyone's familiar with the sharks.
No.
Makes sense.
Well, and a lot of the photos you see are with the bigger sharks, which I think are, like I said, calmer. You know, some of the smaller sharks seem a bit sketchy. You know, checking out the cage. What's this? What's that? You know, the only way to figure out what something is to bite it. So,
right. Well, that's the other thing I try and explain to people that desperately want to get out of the cage is, how does a dog figure out what anything is? They pick it up and they put it in their mouth.
right.
They don't have hands.
Right.
Like, it's the same, but you know, a shark.
Yeah. Exactly. So I did see a question scroll by about when the sharks leave their mommies.
Yeah.
See that. I mentioned earlier that they have somewhere on an average of 8 pups, and they're almost 5 feet long. But you know, nobody's seen sharks give birth, but from accidental fishing of pregnant females, they found between like 4 and 14 sharks. So the average seems to be about 8, and they drop and go. So I mean, at almost 5 feet, you're ready to be on your own. So yeah, there's no motherly love there.
That was a good question, Jen.
And how are you going to keep all these sharks together anyway? So
hey, you get back here.
Yeah,
that makes sense. So as soon as they, I guess because we've never seen it, we don't know. So this might be not a good question for you, but they head back out of this, say they're in the Sea of Cortez, so they head back out and go somewhere
after they give birth. Yeah. So the tracking data that we have shows them, you know, maybe spending a few weeks in the Sea of Cortez and then heading back out and then staying in an area sort of south or around Guadalupe Island, but not moving in until late September. So like staying just offshore of the island for a bit.
Interesting.
Maybe it might take a little bit of recovery after you just gave, you know, so before you do it all over.
8 5-foot. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is there any info on what they eat in the Sea of Cortez?
Oh, there's all sorts of stuff. I mean, you know, it's a deep, abundant environment there, but I don't have information on that. Right. But there's all sorts of stuff in there. It's, you know, I know there's a lot of squid, there's a lot of fish and everything they need.
I don't know if you just saw Jen's comment, but Mama needs a vacation after birthing 8 pups.
I agree.
That makes sense. Oh, hi, Nicole. Oh, yeah, somebody's thanking you for doing this. I also thank you for doing this. We've only got about 5 more minutes left, so if anyone does have any more questions for Nicole, get them in quick because we're going to get cut off here in the near future.
Yeah, it's good to, you know, during quarantine and all this craziness to talk sharks. And, you know, the Guadalupe Island season is coming up and it's still unknown how it will be, but we're hoping that we could all use a good shark dive right now, right?
Absolutely. I would love to get out there. I'm just really hopeful that they'll run and we don't have to wait too long because, Oh, yeah. Okay. Questions coming in here.
I saw the one about Amy.
Yeah.
Okay. So Amy was the first shark that we tracked into the Sea of Cortez. And unfortunately, as soon as she left, like in about June, we tracked her out and she was giving like daily hits. And then just south of Cabo, just offshore from there a little bit, she disappeared and has never been seen from again. So we do fear that she may have run into some sort of fishing gear or something. And it's hard to know because like if they get caught in any sort of fishing gear, they're going to sink. So unlike a whale, it's going to float to shore. Although the great white sharks in South Africa that were floating up on the beach, I think that's because they're being attacked by orcas and they would take their liver, which is big and heavy, and then they would end up on the beach. So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
The liver thing. Sylvia, I'm guessing the water in the Sea of Cortez has to be cold for them to be there?
in the summer, it's really hot in there too. So it has a wide fluctuation of temperatures in the Sea of Cortez, but it does go quite deep. So it has all kinds of temperature ranges.
Options for whatever they'd prefer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Somebody said I need to get in the water at Guadalupe. Oh,
yes.
Don't we all?
Yes.
What would you say to somebody that was on the fence about coming to Guadalupe? Has never been.
I've taken people out who are shark lovers, who are scared of sharks, who don't dive, and they're all amazed. They all love it. It's not as scary as you think. It's amazing. It's just simply amazing. Yeah. And even if you're not a certified diver, it's safe. You're right under the surface with a hookah line. So
right.
Yeah, I would highly recommend it.
So if somebody wants information to join you on a trip, how should they contact you? Where should they go?
So on our website, MarineCSI.org, we have ways that you can both support our research through donating to how's my time? Okay. Sponsor or adopt your favorite shark. We also have information on the MCSI trips, which unfortunately we've suspended this year. We're going to do in 2021 thanks to coronavirus. But I also go out on shark diver trips. So you can check in with them. They have a few trips that I'll be out on. So there's plenty of ways to join us at Guadalupe Island and help support the research.
Great. Oh, one more question. Do you think the shark that was seen in the Mediterranean Sea near Majorca in 2018 was really a great white?
I'm not sure. I don't remember offhand seeing that photo, so I can't answer that one.
Sorry, we can't answer your question, Joe. But yeah, I think that was so informative. You definitely taught me a lot of things. I hope everyone else got to learn a little bit too. But Nicole, thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks, that was fun.
I told you it would be.
I know.
I feel like I kind of pushed you to do it.
That's okay.
But I appreciate it so much. It was awesome, and I cannot wait to see the next Shark ID book.
Yeah, so look forward in August and hope to do a trip to Guadalupe with you sometime.
Perfect.
And everyone else too.
Right. Anyways, thanks so much. And it's counting down at me now, and that makes me very nervous.
Because it disappears.
Yeah, we'll just get cut off here in a minute. But yeah, okay. Awesome. So thanks so much. And thanks everyone for watching. At 2 p.m. Mountain Time, we'll be back with Niv from Manta Trust.
Nice.
Thanks so much, Nicole. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.